Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where I talk about TV shows and or dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Bear Season 4, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Okay, so first and foremost, we had Marcus in the freezer. I love that that is the place where everyone just kind of gets away and decompresses. That's just the go-to place. It has been for a while. And I love Sid comes in, it's like, oh, I heard, I understand. And he's like, yo, I'm scared to even look at my station. And she's like, I can look at it for you. She's like, okay, cool. So she goes out there. She's like, yeah, that's screwed up. And it's like, well, it's early in the video, so I'm not going to say what, so it's like, not the word she used, but it's like, I don't know what the F you were doing, but he's like, yeah, I know. And so she helps him clean it up. Obviously, the sit down with Richie and the conversation of just, where things currently stand, and it's like, oh, your station's good, or how are you getting drilled? He's like, I'm figuring it out. It's just like, yeah, it's been a little while since the last episode. I mean, timeline wise, in the confines of the show, so still figuring things out. Things are still bumpy. So Richie, and I love the contrast where it's like Richie and Carmi were on opposite sides. It's funny now, like you have Richie inside the kitchen looking outside the kitchen to see Carmi sitting there. So it's like, hey, I'm about to lock up. Is that okay with you, or is that going to be an issue? He's like, no, man, go ahead, lock up. Thank you, chef. And it's like, all right, are you done moping? Like, do you want me to pull the trigger? He's like, what are you talking about? Do you want me to ask you? Okay. He's like, no. He's like, I'm just thinking. And he's like, what are you thinking about? He's like, mistakes. And it's just so much unsaid that they haven't talked to each other. Like, there's been like a lot of not just passive aggressive, straight up aggressive moments between them, but it's just quiet moment of just like neither one of them can really say what they want to say, or just I don't know if they're scared or just though like Carmi's always had the issue, and it came up last season of like him having a hard time saying sorry. It's just a weird thing where once again it festers in your stomach, and you just kind of feel like it's already too late. So kind of almost what's the point? But he is getting better about it. He is better about apologizing. And so it was interesting where it's like Carmi's like, I'll see you tomorrow. And then Richie's like, today. He's like, what? He's like, today is tomorrow, cousin. Which there's layers to that, considering the whole conversation last episode about being stuck in the same day, Groundhog's Day. And it's like, oh, tomorrow never came. But it's like, well, today is tomorrow. But it's also like there's a layer to that too, because it's like, because every day feels the same day, like you're living the same day over, you can't even like conceptualize tomorrow anymore, because tomorrow doesn't exist, because tomorrow will always be today. And it's there's layers to that. But what I thought was also interesting too was him saying today is tomorrow, cousin, which I'm like, yo, has he called, I don't think he called Carmi cousin at all last season. Like, maybe, I don't even think Carmi called him cousin. I think they called him each other by name, Carmen and Richie, but, and obviously when he's really pissed at him, trying to make a point, calling him Richard. So I'm like, it felt like that was the first time for me. Do correct me in the comments down below, but I feel like the flow of season 3, he definitely didn't call him cousin because they were just on the house. Granted, they're in a better place. They are taking the biggest, like, baby steps to being better. They could be better than where they are right now, but it's still better than what it was before. There's also that nice conversation between Carmen and Ibra, where Ibra's like doing paperwork. It's like, oh, Nat's got you, but he's like, no, I got some ideas, like some stuff I want to eventually like run by you, because he's like, you create more opportunities, or you create your opportunities, and he talks about like how he's like, the reason why I dropped out of the culinary school, didn't show up, it's because he was like, I had my skills and I didn't want to learn any new ones. Once again, he admitted back in season 2 that he was scared about it, but he also says like, when no one came looking for me, I figured I didn't have any opportunities I could bring to a restaurant. And Carmi's like, I'm sorry. He's like, no, I didn't say that make you bad. He's like, no, I know, but it's still wrong and it's still messy. Because he's like, you were busy. He's like, no, but that doesn't make it okay. So I am sorry. And he's like, you do create many opportunities here. Like, he wants Ibrahim to feel like, no, what you do is worthwhile and it is important. I don't want you to like feel like you don't bring something to this place. Once the place shifted over from the beef to the bear, he just felt like he couldn't bring any opportunities. Felt like, once again, the machine was already going without him, without anyone looking for him. So it's like, right, I didn't have any place here anymore, with what they were making. But it's like, no, I never wanted you to feel that way, and that's my fault for dropping the ball like that, busy or not, that is not okay. And Abraham's like, well, I've got some stuff that I would like to, when I'm done with this, can I present it? He's like, of course, I'd love to. And it's like, I thought that was really nice. So we have Gary off, testing wines, trying to figure out like what wines, like, last episode, Sydney was like, yo, I could hook you up with a friend of mine who could help you on the wine side of things, telling you what wines pair with what. So he got a lowdown on that. We had T and at the same time Nat finding out about the whole, when it comes to the produce section side of things, their deal is on bad terms now. They're basically paying the same price for half the produce. And it's all, I think it plays into the whole, because they're like making new dishes all the time. So like that's playing a role in it. And I absolutely love Sid trying to break that down for Carmen and trying to use like a metaphor for once again, it's like, stop, don't do anything mathematical. We gotta find a different metaphor for Carmen. But it's like his brain like can't. It's so, but I mean, I think that's the interesting layers about genius, where it's like you can be a genius in one capacity and just be like dog shit at other things. And that's Carmen. It's like, oh, you're good at the restaurant thing, you're good at being a cook, but you're dog shit in other areas. I mean, he even said it himself, like in school, he never got good grades and stuff, so. But yeah, her using the examples, he's like, wait, we don't use apples. It's like, Carmen, work with her here, dude. Like, you're missing, like the metaphor is getting lost when she's like, no, I'm not talking about, I'm talking metaphorical apples. And then he's just like, she's like, we had 10, but we're paying for 6. And he was like, I think she was saying we're paying for like 4. And he was like, well, 6. She's like, what? He's like, no, 6 is less than 10. And she's like, well, yes, but she's like, wait, you're confusing me. And I'm like, you completely and utterly fucked this metaphorical conversation you have, because you're trying to break down how the farm deal worked now. So basically her takeaway from it's like, yo, we probably need to like take, instead of it being like 5 things to a dish, we should probably bring it down to 3. And Carmen's like, okay. And she's like, what? It's like, yeah, let's go with that, chef. And she's like, oh, are you really okay with it? He's like, yeah, sure. And she's like, do you see that? That was actually really easy. He's like, okay. And she's like, no, did that not feel easy to you? He's like, I don't know. I'm trying. I think that speaks volumes, where it's like, hey, hard and easy, like, it's still the same for him. The fact is that he can't really distinguish of like, oh my God, that was a lot simpler than the way you've handled things in the past. But it didn't even quite register to him. He doesn't notice until Sid says like, wasn't that a little? He's probably thinking to himself, wait, was it easier? I don't know. Probably felt about the same. But I mean, if it's easier for Sid, then I must be doing something right. So hey, I'm gonna keep trying. So she ends up talking to Gary later on about said changes. And I think it's interesting because Carm was listening to everything, and he just walks up to Sid like, oh, like he didn't hear everything. She's like, oh, I was talking to Gary about that. So do you want me to run through the menu? And he was like, no, you're good. And she's like, are you sure? It's like, yeah. I think it's a twofold of he did hear what she had to say and he agreed with her ideas. So it's like, all right, for one, she doesn't need me micromanaging her. Like, I want her to have the confidence to believe in the choices she's making, because she is good at what she does, and I don't want her to feel like she has to second guess herself because of me. So I want her, I want her to feel like, okay, like I'm trusting her. Yes, I already heard everything, but I want her to have trust and belief in herself and know that I trust and believe in her, even though I did already hear her ideas. So even if he might have had issues with it, he didn't say anything. But I think it's more a thing of, no, it makes sense. It's good. I want you to trust yourself. So I'm not going to say I actually heard everything you were saying to Gary. So we're just going to keep it pushing that direction. The Nat and Pete of it all, where like Pete's like, hey, and she's like, what's up? And he's like, so I ran into Francie at the gym. And the fact is that I love that Nat's like, of course you did. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Is that meaning like Francine's like a gym rat or something? Like she's always in the gym? Or is there, or because later on Nat's like, so was she hot? And he's like, well, she's like, be careful. And poor Pete, he's in a trap. He's almost like, what do you want me to say? I mean, yeah, she's like, you like, oh, so almost like you think she's hot, huh? And it's like, no. And she's like, hi, Natalie. Because like, Francie she ran into Pete at the gym and then tried to say like, try to extend an olive branch. But once again, Nat's continuous statement is, well, Francie can go fuck, So we still don't know. Maybe this will finally be the season we find out what happened with this blood feud. Because even in her phone, the contact's like Francine, was it bitch, either bitch face or bitch fuck betrayer, which immediately I was like, and the fact that you made the gym comment, I'm like, did she like have sex with, like, did she sleep with one of your boyfriends or someone you were into? Did she steal them from you? Like, how long has this beef been going on? It's got to be relatively recent into their adulthood because like they were texting, and like when you look at Nat's phone, like it seemed like Francie texted Nat first saying like you're dead to me, and then Nat texted her back, well, you're dead to me. So the fact is that Francine would start first, I think is interesting. So what does Francine, I mean, it's probably like a perspective thing where Francine feels like she's in the right and Nat's in the wrong, and Nat feels the complete opposite. For the fact is that Nat didn't text her first. So not unless they had an exchange of words and then Francine sent that text and then, Nat replied. That's the only exchange they've had. And she was deciding like, and she was about to type out, I miss you. And then immediately was like, no, go fuck. I was like, Carmen, considering where his story is, I'll get to there in a second. I was like, he's going to call you at this time, isn't he? He's like, ironically, Carmen literally was in the same situation with the fridge guy and Claire not last season, in season 2. So I was like, oh, that's hilarious. And I think Carm called at the right time because I'm like, the fuck, you can go fuck, that's burning that olive branch. So it's like, it's a good thing that she didn't get that chance to send that text. But either way, Tina is still struggling to try to get her time down. And little by little, she is getting it there. Like the last time we saw, it's like 4.5 minutes, I believe, is like roughly around the time she ended up getting down to. But Jess was like, hey, you need to take a break. Like, you're just going to run yourself ragged. Focus on this. Like, do something else. I see the progress you're making. Just focus on something else. You'll nail this. And even Carmen's like, yo, T, I couldn't get another 3 minutes, so I understand it. But like, T's also dealing with like, right, me and David had an argument. We had a fight. We went to bed feeling like shit, woke up feeling like shit. So she's the one that bit the bullet and said, I'm sorry. And she's like, yeah, because when you have that hanging over you, she's like, you kind of do dumb things, which you're like, I don't know if she meant that to be as loaded as it is, but obviously towards Carmen, that's a very, very loaded thing because there's a lot of sorries and apologies and not handling things the right way, him not really biting the bullet, but biting the bullet now, saying a lot of his apologies. Because remember last season, he couldn't even like say sorry to Claire, didn't know how to bring it up, but he's a lot more comfortable with saying sorry now. Once again, still at a weird place, not with just Claire, because we don't know how much help the facts were when they tried to like bridge that gap between Carm and Claire. But still hasn't properly said sorry to Richie, and like we don't know where they currently stand. So there's all that. Tina asked the question of like, yo, so have you seen the baby? And then Carmen's like, what baby? You're like, oh, Carmen. And I love that she picks up a spoon. I thought she was going to hit him with something. I thought she was finding something like, let's find something to hit you with. And she's like, no, I'm going to take this spoon and I'm going to shove it up your ass. And he's like, oh my God, Sugar's baby. And it's like, yes, you. He's like, I'm such an asshole. She's like, yes, you are, Carmen. And he's like, and he reaches out to Nat. And I love that Nat's initially like, the conversation they're having, and he's like, wait, what are you talking about? She's like, the dish. We're bringing it down from like a 3 to maybe 2. And he's like, no, I'm calling about Sophie. And she's like, what? It's like, yeah, I feel like such a dick. I haven't reached out about my niece, and I want to see her, and I'm sorry. She's like, well, let me screw my head on right. Am I here? He's like, no, I'm serious. Like, it's really messed up. I do want to see her. And she's like, I get that you're busy. He's like, yeah, but still, like, that's... But for her, it's like, no, it's still nice to know that. So it's like, yeah, I would love... I have wanted you to see her. So, and the conversation comes up about, like, yo, like, are you okay? How are you? And he's like, I'm busy. She's like, no, how are you? And he's like, I'm fine. I think I'm okay, And they ended up having this interesting conversation. I forgot what the beginning part was, but eventually she brought up like the flashback we saw in episode 1 when she dropped him off at the bus stop when he was on his way to New York. She was like, she was like Mikey's funeral. And I don't know if Carmen's like, it sounded like he wanted to try and bring that up about, because I think it's a conversation about missing Mikey's funeral. And I think Carmen wanted to bring it up, but she was like, no, like, it's okay. I don't think she knows that Carmen was there. We saw in episode 1 of last season, he was there. He was just outside the church at the time, and he couldn't bring himself to go inside. And I don't think he's told Nat that yet. They're like, yo, I was there. I just couldn't bring myself to go inside. But for her, it's like, she was thinking about that. Specifically, she was thinking about the day he left on that bus. And she's like, that spark, she's like, you had that spark in you. And she's like, it made me sad. Good in the regards of like, and sad is like, right, you're leaving, but at least, you know, you're out there doing something you love and you care about. But she was also sad because it's like, I was kind of left behind with, like, you know, it made me realize I didn't really have anything much. She's like, yeah, she had Pete, she had a job, and she's like, I'm very lucky in that regard, but it was still kind of like she was missing that thing that she loved, and she loves the opportunity that Carmi's brought her in, and that she is able to do what she's doing right now, and she loves that. But she really she loves that her brother had that thing of like, this is the thing you love, and you had that spark in you. Because like, right, there was a whole conversation about, it's like, I know you're going to be happy, and she's like, how do you know? And he's like, because you deserve to be, Nat. And it's like, you know, almost like that conversation of like, that happiness doesn't last forever type of thing. How do you know it's going to last? And it's like, because you deserve it. And that kind of transitioned to this whole conversation about the thing you love. And she's like, I want you to know, like, even like you went after the thing you loved, and I'm glad about that. But she's like, I just want you to know that, you know, even if things don't completely 100% don't work out. He's like, what are you saying? And she's like, basically, the fact is, it's okay if you don't love it anymore. It's the thing of, it's better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. So she's like, the fact is, you were capable of loving it in the first place. It's the important takeaway, and it hits Carmen like a ton of bricks, because it's like, that's been a conversation. It's like, oh, you must love this. He's like, I don't know if I love this. And Richie was like, dude, if this is you, like if this is you not in love with something, like, what the hell does you would be in love with something? And so it is hitting Carmen. Like, the question is, and it probably makes him wonder, like, does he love this anymore? Has that spark been killed because of just everything? You know, has he played a major role? And I would say yes, in killing that spark inside of himself. I love they're having that conversation later in the episode about the reviewer. I don't know if it's the Tribune reviewer they're referencing, or, I mean, they bring him up, but I don't know if that's the reviewer in general they're talking about, because even Jess doesn't even know what they look like. It's like, well, this person has a tendency to show up with a celebrity sometimes. It's like, oh yeah, the celebrity's supposed to be a decoy. They come up with a fake name, last name. That last name is usually tied to like a street in the place that they're like eating at. And I love like the conversation from like the I think it's Chris and Chucky about the whole like, oh yeah, like, we should find this guy, and we should just beat his ass, right? It's like, yeah, like, we can. And Richie's like, yo, when the time comes, guys, like, I'll call you in when you need to be. Because I even love Jimmy being like, what is this guy, like, I guess some like pot, he treats a guy like some like bonk hitting like guy, and he's like, well, we don't know who the fuck he is. Like, he shows up with a magic wand or something. So, but then the conversation becomes, we need to be less focused on this person, because it's like, once they come in, they'll realize like, oh, you know who we are, so you're giving us special treatment, and that's just going to be used against you. You need to treat everyone like they're special. Like, that's kind of like the go-to, and that's obviously Richie's takeaway. I love that he had that conversation with Sid, and it's like he's trying to come up with something. Sid's like, no, maybe simplify. He's like, oh, that sounded very entitled. She's like, no, you are the furthest thing from entitled. But she's like, maybe simplify a little bit. He's like, Herb Chef, I understand. So it's like he tries the thing later on, and he can't. He's like, damn it, it was a really good fucking one. He's like, what was he was basically like, crush the ever living shit out of this motherfucker or something like that. And he's like, go ahead. And she's like, yep, Herb. You know, sometimes you need to add a little bit of that old Richie flair to it to kind of make things work. But I get it. He wants to be sophisticated, want to add some, like, nuance to it. But sometimes you need to just say, like, let's get this motherfucker. Let's do it. Like, plain and simple. Sometimes you don't... Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because while they're simplifying the dish, he's supposed to be simplifying that. He's kind of struggling with that, so that's funny. That thing too at the restaurant, which I think is interesting, and this kind of goes in tandem with the Carmen of it all, where like Richie ends up going back home. I want to say that's Ridley Scott, the whole conversation about how he gets like that comfortability and familiarity with like his actors and stuff like that, making that trust being built up, and him and Richie laying in bed being like, please make this work, because he's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do if this does not work, because he's like, if I lose this, if he loses the bear, he feels like he'll have nothing like anchoring him, because he's like he's barely hanging on. He's like, please make this work out. So I think the interesting thing is a lot of people need this to work out. That's been a recurring conversation, and it's interesting at the same time. Carmi's trying to figure out whether or not he still loves this. So it's also Sid still, like, she's seeing like the reports about Adam starting his restaurant. Then here's still that deal you have yet to sign, and she's looking at it. She's looking at it, closing her laptop. It's like that indecision, that still unclearness of it all. It's still there. But then finally we see like them kind of doing their thing at the end of the episode. Obviously T coming to back up Marcus, and then Sid covering for Tina's station, and we see that Sid was able to get the time for like the noodles and stuff under like it's like 2:39 or something like that. So she's really good. But I think like it's like, okay, so what's Carmen thinking about all that? It's putting things in perspective of like, I guess maybe a thing of how much he has underestimated her. Because I'm curious. I mean, because Carmen, I don't know if he said like, he never said he never could get it under 3 minutes. But he like, even I think he said he had a hard time getting under 3 minutes. I don't know if it's like he never used those words. So I don't know if he's saying like, I never was able to get under 3 minutes, and in fact Sid did. It's kind of like interesting, or am I reading too much into that? And it's like, oh, I don't know how to read that situation at the end of the episode. Other than like, we might have to restructure some stuff, and maybe he's just like, I'm the one that fault here. But like I said, my takeaway from that, and especially his look at the clock, because he's the one that stopped it, being like, I think, like I said, I don't think he's ever gotten it under 3 minutes, and Sid did. So, I don't know. The timing has always been his issue too. Back in season 2, trying to get like everything under 7 seconds. No, wasn't it actually getting? No, it's getting things under 5 seconds, like from boom, 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 because of the positioning of stuff. But yeah, so it seems like things are better. Obviously, the beef is still doing the best because they ended up selling out pretty early. So it's like, all right, that's good. We see the red line going up, at least on their front. I don't know how that really reflects on the bear. I guess it balances out like, okay, its success is kind of being stifled by like things being with the bear. So I don't know. Some interesting developments. It's going to be interesting to see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.